Here's a bit of insider knowledge from me, a person in the biz, as we call it here in the biz.
Did I get a coffee?
No, shut up, you're a chair, you can't talk.
If a publisher doesn't make a certain amount of money with a game, they aren't going to make more of those games. Strange, but true. That may seem like a bit of a jaded way to look at things, but it really is the case. Video game companies are still companies, and while we'd love to think they're in it all for the love of the craft, they do need to turn a profit. One common way to tip the scales financially is to launch a compelling, unforgettable, and unique marketing campaign. And while the phrase, "there's no such thing as bad press," is accurate to some extent, sometimes those campaigns are compelling, unforgettable, and unique for all of the wrong reasons. For this list, we'll be looking at the full spectrum of marketing ploys so bad that they attracted precisely the wrong kind of attention. Console ads, publicity stunts, publisher controversies, the gang's all here, and I'm ready to dig up everything your favourite company wishes you would forget ever happened. I'm Peter from TripleJump, and here are 10 video game advertising campaigns that backfired massively. Number 10. The Fallout 76 Canvas Bag. Fallout 76 began its quest to disappoint every eager fan quite early into development, all the way back to when they announced it would be a small-scale MMO, actually. In fact, Bethesda did so well at disappointing everyone that they leveled up and spent the resulting skill points in the marketing disaster category. With this newfound power, Bethesda went about crafting the Power Armor edition of Fallout 76. It was rather expensive, but buyers were surely going to get their money's worth with high-quality items such as a genuine canvas bag. Their canvas bag hit a canvas snag, however, which I'm sure must have been a canvas drag. The bags that eventually turned up were nothing to canvas brag about. Okay, that's enough of that. The point is, they were cheap nylon knockoffs that were nothing like what was promised. It got much worse when it turned out that influencers were sent actual canvas bags for free, and then got much worse again when Bethesda announced that they weren't going to do anything about it. Many complaints, a media kerfuffle, and 7 months later though, players did get their proper canvas bags. Better late than never, and at least the game was good. Wasn't it? Number 9. The Godfather 2 breaks the law. You'd think that sending weapons to people as a way to promote a game would be rightly dismissed as a bad idea. That's mainly because it is. However, someone at EA clearly liked the plan, as they included actual brass knuckles as part of the press pack for The Godfather 2. Sending weapons to journalists was bad enough, but it gets worse when you realise that shipping weapons is a crime in many American states. Most importantly, it's a crime in California, where the publisher is based. Does EA not have a legal team? EA then asked those who'd received the weapons to send them back, which, to be very clear, EA, is still every bit as much a crime as it was when you sent them out. So yes, not only had EA broken several laws, but they then encouraged others to do the same. It's almost poetically incompetent. They made a game about the mafia and then accidentally organised some crime of their own. They probably found themselves in less trouble if they'd sent out actual horses' heads. Number 8. THQ Nordics 8chan AMA. AMAs are usually going to attract some problematic questions at the best of times, and that's when you do them on Reddit. One site in particular though, 8chan, may be the worst possible place to do such a thing, so naturally, that's where THQ Nordic decided to hold theirs in February of 2019. Imagine the very worst place on the internet, with all of the foulest things you can conceive. That's 8chan. It's a bad idea to host your AMA there, and an even worse idea to drive traffic to that site, as many people who might pop in for the THQ Nordic AMA will have no idea what they're about to see. It was obviously taken down and apologies were issued, but only after they'd responded to some of the questions. So take this as a warning. always do your research before visiting illicit websites on the internet. Anyway, it's time to check out that dark web thing I keep hearing about. I assume it's a Marvel Spider-Man thing. Oh, Jesus Christ! Number 7. The Resident Evil stunts. As you can probably tell from the plural in the title of this entry, the Resi series doesn't have the best track record with viral marketing, garnering some unwarranted media coverage on more than one occasion. The publicity stunts behind Resident Evil 5 and 6 were fairly similar, as they both involved fake human body parts. Yes, really. For Resident Evil 6, Capcom sponsored an art installation that looked like a market stall selling human meat. Mildly provocative, but not causing much outrage. Well, apart from the plate of actual penises. Whose idea was this? It seems they learnt half their lesson from the Resi 5 campaign though, which involved a central London scavenger hunt in which the competitors had to find fake body parts. Some of the body parts went missing during the event though, causing worry that an unknown passerby might find a lone, realistic-looking limb lying on the side of the road. Resident Evil Outbreak's marketing stunt involved a website where you could input a phone number which would text the recipient and tell them they've got the T virus. The main problem was you could put any number into the system, so people with no idea what was going on would receive unsolicited messages telling them they had an incurable disease. Thankfully, this one happened in the very early 2000s though, because if it happened today, it would have gone much more viral. I know I did that joke earlier, but I just can't help myself. Number 6. HITMAN Absolutions Facebook controversy. HITMAN Absolution. The game that decided the Hitman series was too much about stealth and planning and not enough about machine guns and explosions. But don't worry, the game didn't just bring us questionable creative decisions on the part of the developers. It brought a marketing nightmare too. Brilliant. The worst offender was a Facebook campaign which allowed you to put a hit out on your friends. It's an innocent enough idea at first. I mean, no one's really going to believe you're announcing their actual murder on Facebook, but the problem arose when you could single people out with a set of unsavory, pre-established characteristics. It included such identifiable features as, and I quote, awful makeup, tiny penis, or small tits. So, an idea that initially seemed quite harmless was made incredibly mean-spirited and quite childish. Unsurprisingly, there was plenty of backlash, and the app was quickly removed. But that wasn't actually the only faux pas, as the controversy went all the way back to the pre-launch trailers. Fans could already tell that stealth-centric gameplay was about to be flung out of the window when Agent 47 engaged in all-out warfare with sexy rocket launcher-wielding nuns. They might as well have just released a colourful Mario-like platformer. Would have been about as faithful to the series as this trailer was, to be honest. Number 5. God of War 2's Dead Goat. The God of War series has had its fair share of debauchery, which is why, to celebrate the launch of God of War 2, Sony threw a party in a similar vein. According to the Daily Mail, brilliant, the party involved everything from eating offal from the stomach of a dead goat to knife throwing, live snake wrangling, and topless girls feeding guests grapes. Obviously, because it's the Daily Mail and they have pretty much the same relationship with the truth that Kratos has with the gods, nearly all of this was nonsense. In fact, they didn't even attend the event. There was a party, and oddly, there was really a dead goat there, but there was no offal eating, and the goat was borrowed from a local butcher. Not that I'm defending a goat carcass being a party centerpiece, I don't care where they got it from. Goat carcass parties aren't a good idea, everyone, whether or not you invite the Daily Mail. I only learned that life lesson myself after last year's Office Christmas do, and I wish you would all stop bringing it up. Number 4. The PSP's terrible adverts. PlayStation has a history of weird ads, from the conceptual nightmare created by director David Lynch for the PS2 to that horrible PS3 baby one. I really hate this. We've had a good amount of both bizarre and memorable adverts, but they've not always been winners.
PSP, it's like cheese you can listen to outside.
The PSP might have the worst series of ad campaigns in gaming history, so let's look at some... Did I do it right? Firstly, a PSP ad in Manchester had to be removed because the phrase "take a running jump here" appeared to be endorsing suicide in the metro station. This isn't even humorously bad, just terrible. Secondly, an ad promoting the device's dual-sided buttons was criticised for how clearly sexist it was, showing a woman with breasts on both her front and back with the phrase "touch both sides" for added enjoyment. Also terrible. Finally, Sony put up a billboard where a white woman domineeringly grabbed a black woman by the jaw and accompanied it with the slogan, "PlayStation Portable White is coming." Who on earth okayed any of these? If Sony's goal was to insult and offend literally everyone who might have been interested in buying the console, they were certainly doing a damn fine job of it. This is probably the epitome of something a company really wants you to forget. I wish I could, Sony. I wish I could. Number 3. HOMEFRONTS ecological nightmare. Corporations are often berated for their environmentally damaging practices, and rightly so, but surely the games industry shouldn't have too much trouble staying green. After all, it's just a few developers working on computers, right? And a lot of titles nowadays are distributed digitally. All they really need to do is equip their offices with a few solar panels and a recycling bin for the energy drinks, and they're sorted, right? Well, back in 2011, THQ managed to annoy just about every environmentalist, and lots of other people too, in one swift, magnificently stupid move. As a publicity stunt to market the upcoming Homefront game, THQ released a large number of red balloons in the San Francisco Bay Area. But what goes up must come down, as Sir Isaac Newton or someone said, and the balloons ended up in the bay itself, in what can only be described as an ecological nightmare. While the company claimed the balloons were biodegradable, the act was likely illegal as per the California Fish and Game Code 5652. I wonder if THQ and EA will share a cell together. That'd be nice. Number 2. Everything Acclaim did. I don't think the irony of Acclaim's name is spoken about nearly often enough. The word itself, of course, refers to glowing praise, but the company Acclaim Entertainment was, well, let's just say its death in 2004 was basically a mercy killing. Needless to say, their inclusion in this list means they didn't go out before engaging in a fair few marketing debacles. The first and least offensive blunder we'll talk about happened in the build-up to Turok Evolution. In the US, Acclaim asked new parents to legally name their child Turok for a prize of $10,000, and asked anyone to change their name to Turok via deed poll in the UK for £500 and an Xbox. After a journalist looked into it years later, it turned out that the winners that Acclaim advertised were just actors. Their more problematic publicity stunts were for Shadow Man 2 and Burnout 2. For Shadow Man, Acclaim offered to pay for funeral costs of the recently deceased in exchange for advertising the game on their tombstone. There were no paid actors lying in caskets for this one. For Burnout 2, Acclaim said they would refund any speeding tickets that a driver received on the game's release date of October the 11th, 2002. Obviously, that idea was severely criticised for being incredibly dangerous in encouraging speeding. It's probably for the best then that the company went under, because God knows what kind of behaviour they'd be volunteering to subsidise today. And number 1, Ubisoft's terror campaign. If you're under the impression that Ubisoft managed to create a publicity stunt that made people fear for their actual lives, you'd be wrong, because they actually did it twice. I'm almost impressed. You might have thought the worst thing that Ubisoft did in the run-up to Watch Dogs was to blatantly lie in the gameplay demo, which is, alright, that's still probably true. However, they did do something far more dangerous around the same time. In order to spice up a review copy of Watch Dogs, Ubisoft locked the game in a safe and sent it to a Sydney-based news outlet. An outlet that had no idea what was in the package and that didn't cover video games to begin with. What made it 100 times worse was that the safe was rigged to sound like a ticking clock when somebody tried to open it. To the surprise of no one, except Ubisoft's marketing team apparently, this resulted in a full site evacuation and an appearance from the Aussie bomb squad. I think we can all agree this is very much a case of a mistake one should learn from. However, for the marketing of Splinter Cell Conviction, Ubisoft had someone appear at a New Zealand bar armed with a gun to start threatening the people there. The gun was fake, of course, but that's a small comfort for anyone who was made to feel like their life was in danger for the purposes of advertising a video game. Again, police were unsurprisingly called to the scene. I'm not entirely sure what Ubisoft has against Australasia that they've resorted to threatening the lives of people from those nations in particular in promoting their video games, but this is certainly not an ethical way to get those sweet dollary dues. Look out, Papua New Guinea, you're next.